up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Now, Floyd Mayweather Jr., he was talking the retired life and also possibly coming back for a 50th fight with Jim Gray on Showtime on the Butte versus Badou Jack card. So I want to talk about that in this particular video and give my thoughts. Basically, link in the description in case you haven't seen it. But Floyd was just talking. He says, I like being on this side of the fence helping fighters. But I did sit down with Showtime and CBS, and they offered me crazy numbers or talked crazy numbers, like basically negotiating, trying to get him to come back for a 50th fight. But we'll wait and see. Now, if you consider yourself to be a slightly intelligent person, just at least slightly, you don't have to be Albert Einstein or a genius, but just slightly intelligent, then this should be no surprise. This is typical Floyd being Floyd. I call it Floyding. Like there's certain mannerisms or characteristics of Floyd's personality. He's a guy that's in the limelight, and we see these things like the flashing of money, things like he likes to be in the driver's seat at all times. He doesn't let anybody hardball him and put him in a position like paint him in against a wall where he's forced to answer something. He just doesn't do that. He's a boss, and that's what bosses do. They don't have to speak or respond to certain things they don't want to. You know what I mean? They kind of beat to the sound of their own drum. Pause. So that's basically what it is with Floyd. It's been this way for a minute, ever since he became Money Mayweather and beat Oscar De La Hoya. He's pretty much been the A side and the guy that was like running boxing. Pacquiao had his run too, but as things fizzle out, you start to see that Mayweather was clearly the bigger star in terms of, I'm not talking about fighting styles or who you like and this and that. I'm talking about who's the bigger cash cow, and it's clearly Floyd, still undefeated. Everything he does is news. He's talking to Jim Gray for maybe a minute or two, and that's a viral video. That's on all the websites as headlines, you know what I'm saying? Pacquiao just looked sharp versus Timothy Bradley in the third fight that no one really wanted to see, and you don't really hear many people talking about Pacquiao. The only thing I've heard since that fight was Bob Arum saying the numbers were terrible in terms of the Pacquiao Bradley 3, but it's kind of like everyone's just moving on. But anyway, it's not about Pacquiao, it's about Floyd and what he said to Jim Gray. Again, link in the description. He says he might come back, but it has to be for 9 figures. That's a lot of money. And they also brought up the idea of Gennady Golovkin, and he said Golovkin should fight Andre Ward, which is basically what he said before. So it doesn't look like there's an interest there to help Golovkin's resume. And he also said Danny Garcia, young, undefeated. He said prospect, but then he changed it to champion. And he didn't really sound like Porter Thurman was the ticket. So it kind of sounded like he would come back for Danny Garcia, something like that. Now, let me just say this. Danny Garcia, I just met him the last weekend or whatever. Danny Garcia is a cool dude, undefeated. And I don't think he'll beat Floyd at all. But again, people in boxing, everyone says everything's a cherry pick and this and that. But the funny thing that I notice is people rate the caliber. It's almost a backhanded compliment, if you will. Like, people know how good Mayweather is. So the fact that he's fighting Danny Garcia, they think, oh, it's a cherry pick because they don't give him a shot to win. But the same thing was said about Marcos Maidana, who gave Mayweather a hell of a first fight and a tough fight. He was a champion. He had just knocked out 3 of his last 4 opponents, which included warriors like Josecito Lopez, Jesus Soto Kras, guys who are known to be tough or known for having chins. And then the 4th person was Adrian Broner, who he almost stopped. It looked like he was going to stop him, but nonetheless, he knocked him down twice, battered him for the first half of the fight, etc. Then he fought Floyd Mayweather. Oh, it's a cherry pick, another slow, flat-footed, quote-unquote Latino. That's what people were saying, and then it turned out to be a good fight. So I don't think Danny Garcia would beat him, but at the end of the day, he's undefeated. He's a champion now with the WBC, and people are like, oh, Floyd with his money grabs. It's still an undefeated fighter. And again, the funniest thing is you put certain fighters in there with a guy that you know is class and a guy you know is pretty much known elite. All of a sudden, it's a cherry pick, right? And I'm just calling it like it is. The reason, damn fucking Knight Rider back here. The reason I'm saying that is this. Is because you put guys like Maidana, who they said was a cherry pick for Floyd, Danny Garcia, who they said was a cherry pick for Floyd. I'm sure people probably even said Canelo, Robert Guerrero were cherry picks for Floyd. Definitely Guerrero, but I don't know about Canelo. Probably. But the thing is, you put any of those guys into fights with other welterweights or other guys in their divisions, and those are mega fights. You put Maidana versus Porter Thurman winner. Obviously, if Maidana's in shape, that would be a fight that nobody would complain about. You put Maidana after he is on a 4-win streak. He looks good with Robert Garcia and has an improved jab. He nearly knocks out Broner and becomes a champion. You put him in there with Mayweather. Oh, it's a cherry pick. Same thing with Danny Garcia. Yes, Danny has struggled in certain fights. It's just what it is. He struggled in the Peterson fight, and he also struggled in the Mauricio Herrera fight. I thought Herrera definitely beat him, right? And then he had Rod Salka somewhere in between there. But it does not take away from the fact that Danny Garcia has a better resume than some people that you want to see Floyd fight. Period. Danny Garcia has a better resume than Gennady Golovkin. Yeah, I said it. If you look at, you got to look at basic boxing. Basic boxing, Danny Garcia was brought in basically to lose in some fights. He was the challenger versus Erik Morales in the first fight. You could say, oh, Erik Morales was 40, he was past prime, whatever. Morales was still the champion, and he was still the respected, well-known name who had given great fights to guys like Manny Pacquiao. Great fight where he had one eye, looked like a cyclops, versus Maidana, who is young and strong. And Barrera, you know what I mean? I don't have to go through Erik Morales' whole rap sheet. It's El Terrible. Like, we know he's a good fighter, and he was the champion. Garcia was little known, and he was the challenger, and he knocked down Morales in that first fight. He didn't look great, but he definitely won the fight. Then, based on a rematch clause, he rematched Morales, and this is something people don't talk about, but the same thing Francisco Vargas tested positive for, I believe, that clenbuterol, which is an illegal PED. It's a diuretic that's banned substance in the sport of boxing. Erik Morales tested positive for that in that rematch fight with Danny Garcia, and somehow, some way, just like Francisco Vargas, that fight was allowed to go on, and it didn't help Morales because he ended up getting spun around like James Brown. Yeah! And he got knocked out. You know what I'm saying? But aside from that, a lot of people said Lucas Matisse was going to tee off and destroy Danny Garcia. It didn't happen. You look at Amir Khan. Amir Khan was supposed to fight Lamont Peterson, and Peterson had his issue with the high testosterone level, so that rematch was canceled, and they brought Danny Garcia in out of nowhere, and he ended up pulling the upset. Khan was the favorite. Khan was considered the longer, stronger, rangier, speedier fighter. Pause. And Khan looked good. It's not like Khan came out horrible and was just getting dogged. He looked good versus Danny Garcia in those first 2 rounds, but Garcia landed his famous left hook, and it was timing. So again, it's funny to hear boxing aficionados, people who are claim to be pugilists, they don't put in perspective. They go, oh, Terence Crawford versus Ruslan Provodnikov. That's just such a egregious mismatch. The only reason you're saying that is because you believe that Terence Crawford is at such a level, such a skill set, that it makes it an unfair match. You put Ruslan in there with anybody at 140. Like, a lot of people would even say I would watch Mikey Garcia, or I would watch Adrian Broner, or I would watch, I'm sure they're going to watch John Molina Jr. People didn't have a problem with Ruslan Provodnikov fighting guys like Lucas Matisse, right? Because you don't believe that it'll be the same fight if Matisse fights Provodnikov as if Terence Crawford fights him. You know what I mean? And I think that could have been a dangerous fight for Terence Crawford, but people were hating on it. So again, the fighters who are skilled, oftentimes they have to do so much more to show and prove. And Mayweather is a prime example of that. Danny Garcia, let everyone else tell it, it's a horrible cherry pick. And again, there's fights where I don't give a guy much of an opportunity to win, but it doesn't make it a cherry pick. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, Garcia still has a perfect record, whether you liked it or not. It is what it is. He struggled with certain people, but then he also bombed out and did better than people thought against other people, like Lucas Matisse. People said he was going to get knocked out by him. So it is what it is. Mayweather, I think he'll come back. I think the money will be worth it. And Jim Gray, the funny part was, because I seen some pictures, he was in Dubai or Egypt or something, and Mayweather looked like he put on a little weight. A lot of people blew it out of context or whatever, like he was horribly fat. He just looked bigger than traditional Mayweather, but he didn't look like grotesquely, morbidly obese, anything like that. But Jim Gray mentioned that. He was like, how much you weigh now? You look like 160. You're fat. I thought that was funny. And Mayweather, like I said, Mayweather just being Mayweather. He was basically not giving too much, but hinting at it. And this is another thing that's got the internet going crazy. Mayweather trademarked TMT 50 and TBE 50, I think it is. So those coined phrases or coined terms, he trademarked it. So the reason you would do that, most people speculate, is for merchandising reasons. If you copyright that, then you own the rights to that particular sequence, that phrase, TMT 50, and you can put it on your hats and you can start marketing and merchandising it. And we know Mayweather's a businessman. So I think Mayweather, he for whatever reason, he's in the limelight. He gets this crazy, like even the Berto fight. We just seen Berto knock out Victor Ortiz. You could say Victor Ortiz was past prime, but again, it was a competitive fight. Victor Ortiz didn't look like shit out there. He was actually probably winning, you know what I mean? Up until the point where Berto stopped him. So you put Berto in there with Mayweather and he couldn't do anything with him. He at least has maintained his speed and power, and that was evident because he caught Victor Ortiz in transition with that nasty uppercut and destroyed him, and he wasn't able to recover. So again, skilled fighters are always held to this immaculate standard that no one else is held to, right? And you guys can say whatever you want. Garcia has a better resume than Gennady Golovkin. I'm not saying who's a better fighter, because that really remains to be seen. I have to see Golovkin in there with the Amir Khans of his division, guys he's favored to lose to. I got to see him in there with the Lucas Matisse, a guy who had bombed out Lamont Peterson, Humberto Soto, a Jose who was a leading 140-pound mandatory, and guys like that. I got to see him destroy those types of, or fight someone who just destroyed all those people and has like an 85% knockout ratio, who's about his size. You know what I mean? Lucas and Danny are about the same size, things like that. So those are the types of things I got to see from Golovkin to really rate him, right? And determine where he's at. So again, Mayweather's just held to this ungodly standard. Everyone he fights is a cherry pick. Oh, Pacquiao was past prime, and then Pacquiao comes back and looks the best versus Bradley in the third fight after he loses to Mayweather, right? But now, and everyone's reading and writing articles saying Pacquiao's reinvigorated and he should keep going because he looks so good and so sharp. But when he gets in there with Floyd and looks shittier than normal and only lands 71 punches, oh, he was a faded Pacquiao. Fight should have happened 5 years ago. And it's funny how people become damaged goods, and after they fight Floyd, they go on to have signature wins, and all of a sudden they're no longer damaged goods. It doesn't work like that. It's just like food. If you get milk and it spoils, you don't wait another 2 weeks and the milk is all of a sudden re-energized and reinvigorated. If anything, the milk is going to be even more spoiled, and then you're gonna open the lid and smell it, and it's going to smell like shit because it was spoiled 2 weeks ago and you just left it in your fridge. Now it's like curdled and fermented and all kinds of stuff like that. Bacteria growth, whatever the hell happens to milk. That's my point. Floyd fights Cotto. Oh, Cotto was never the same after Margarito and Pacquiao losses. He was damaged goods. Then Cotto teams up with Freddie Roach. He bombs out Delvin Rodriguez, beats up on Sergio Martinez at a higher weight at 159. First Puerto Rican in history to have 4 division championship titles. He beats Daniel Gill. They put him in the fight with Canelo. A lot of people were picking Cotto. All of a sudden, he's not damaged goods anymore. You know what I mean? Same thing with Canelo. Oh, he was too young. He wasn't ready, and he was overrated. Then Canelo goes on to do things like dominate Angulo, have a tough fight where he did better than he did with Mayweather versus Edison de Lara, knock out Kirkland, who's a game warrior off of a layoff. You know what I mean? Then he beats up on a legend like Miguel Cotto, and I thought he looked good in that fight. Now he's fighting Amir Khan. So it's just funny how these people are all of a sudden damaged goods, and they become, there's like a rebirth after they fight Floyd if they do good. You know what I mean? So it's just funny to see. Other thing Mayweather said in closing was, he said, the question was, who's the best pound for pound in your absence? And he said Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. He did meet Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, and he admires his skill set. I'm sure there's certain aspects about Roman's game that reminds him of him when he was in the light divisions as Pretty Boy Floyd Mayweather. So that's who he's picking. Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez, definitely a great fighter, definitely a skilled fighter. I've mentioned that for a while. We just got to see him in there with the top names. Again, Estrada rematch is what everyone wants at his current division, or the Japanese dude Inoue. Something like that. If not, move up, fight bigger challenges. You know what I mean? Do like Donaire did. Donaire was taking names in his prime. You know what I mean? He was moving up, stretching Montiel and guys like Darchinian, and he just kept moving up. So that's what we got to see from Roman Chocolatito Gonzalez. Definitely a good fighter. Let me know what you guys think of Floyd trademarking the 50th stuff, and also him coming out of retirement. Most people think it'll happen. That's just my 2 cents on it. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you like my video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button. And you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.